Friendship is supposed to be the one place where betrayal feels impossible. When you've grown up with someone, shared your secrets, cried on their shoulder, celebrated birthdays together, and trusted them with every corner of your heart, you don't ever think they'll be the person to stab you in the back. For me, that person was Emma. Emma wasn't just a friend, she was the friend, my ride or die. The girl I met when we were both 8 years old, wearing the same pink t-shirt on the first day of 3rd grade. We bonded over the fact that we both hated math homework and loved chocolate chip cookies. From that day on, it was like the universe had glued us together. We grew up side by side. Middle school drama, high school crushes, late-night study sessions, sleepovers, heartbreaks. We went through it all together. If anyone had asked me who I trusted most in the world, without hesitation, I would have said, Emma. Even in college, when life started to pull us in different directions, we still managed to stay close. She'd call me during her coffee breaks, I'd text her random memes at 2 a.m., and whenever we came home for holidays, we'd pick up right where we left off. Emma knew everything about me, my fears, my dreams, my insecurities, and most importantly, she knew how much I wanted a stable, loving relationship. So when I met Daniel, my future husband, she was the first person I told. Meeting Daniel wasn't perfect. But he was charming, ambitious, and funny in that dry, sarcastic way that always made me roll my eyes and laugh at the same time. He worked in finance, had big plans for the future, and on our first date, he told me he wanted a family someday. Soon. I remember calling Emma that night, practically squealing into the phone. I think he might be the one, I told her, pacing around my apartment, unable to stop smiling. She was thrilled. At least she sounded thrilled. Oh my God. Finally, someone who's actually worthy of you. I can't wait to meet him. And when she did meet him a few weeks later, everything seemed fine. They got along, joked around a little, but nothing that raised any alarms. In fact, I was relieved. My best friend and my boyfriend getting along? What could be better? The engagement fast-forward 2 years. Daniel proposed in the most romantic way, on a quiet beach at sunset, just the two of us. I cried, said yes, and immediately called Emma. She screamed so loudly I had to pull the phone away from my ear. I knew it. I told you he was the one. Oh my God, I'm so happy for you. Within days, she'd already volunteered to help me plan the wedding. And honestly, I loved it. Emma had great taste, and she was the type of person who could organize chaos into something beautiful. She took over dress fittings, cake tastings, and even my bachelorette party planning. Everyone joked that Emma was like my unofficial maid of honor, but looking back, maybe she saw herself as something more. Subtle red flags. The first time I noticed something odd, it was small. Almost too small to take seriously. We were at my apartment, going over wedding invitations, when Daniel came home from work. He loosened his tie, dropped his briefcase, and sighed dramatically. Long day? I asked. You have no idea, he muttered. Before I could even stand up to hug him, Emma jumped in. You poor thing, she said with a smile. Let me get you a drink. I froze for a second, not because it was inherently wrong. Emma had been to my place 1,000 times and knew where everything was, but because it felt weird, almost intimate. I brushed it off, told myself I was overthinking. But then little things kept happening. Emma would laugh a little too hard at Daniel's jokes. She'd find excuses to sit next to him at group dinners. And once, when I walked into the kitchen late at night during a sleepover, I found them talking quietly in the dark. They stopped immediately when I entered, and Emma just gave me this too bright smile. My gut whispered that something was off. But my heart refused to believe it. This was Emma. My best friend since childhood. She would never betray me. The calm. Before the storm, the months leading up to the wedding were a blur of excitement and stress. Cake tastings, guest lists, fittings, venue tours. It was chaos. But Emma was always there, always supportive, always ready with a glass of wine and a pep talk. Sometimes I thought to myself, I don't know how I'd survive this without her. Daniel adored her too, or at least that's what I thought. He often said things like, "You're lucky to have a friend like Emma. She's basically like family." And I'd smile, feeling grateful. Because at that moment, I truly believed I had it all: a loving fiancé, a loyal best friend, a perfect future waiting just around the corner. Little did I know, that perfect picture was already starting to crack, and soon the truth would shatter everything. The wedding day was supposed to be the happiest day of my life. And in so many ways, it was. The venue looked like something out of a dream: twinkling fairy lights, roses lining the aisle, my closest friends and family gathered in one place. Daniel looked devastatingly handsome in his suit, and when I walked down the aisle, I swear I saw his eyes water. Emma stood beside me in her bridesmaid dress, holding my bouquet when I exchanged vows. Her smile was wide, her eyes sparkling, and for a moment I thought, this is it. This is the life I always wanted. The vows were said, the rings were exchanged, and when Daniel kissed me, the world melted away. But in the background of all that joy, there was something else. Something subtle. Something I couldn't quite name at the time. Emma's presence. After the ceremony, during the reception, I noticed Emma a lot more than usual. At first, it was small. She laughed at Daniel's toast like it was the funniest thing in the world. She danced with him. Just a friendly dance, of course, but it lasted a little longer than it should have. And every time Daniel and I kissed or touched, my eyes would somehow drift toward Emma, watching. Maybe it was my imagination. Maybe it was the exhaustion of the day. But I couldn't shake the feeling that she wasn't just my best friend celebrating my happiness. She was a little too invested in it. The honeymoon glow. Daniel and I left for our honeymoon in Hawaii a day later. It was everything a honeymoon should be: romantic, sunny, filled with lazy mornings and long walks on the beach. But even there, Emma found her way in. She texted me daily. Send me pictures. Did you try the local cocktails yet? Don't forget sunscreen. Daniel burns easily, remember? It was almost sweet, but strange too. Shouldn't she give us space? Why did it feel like she was right there with us, even thousands of miles away? Daniel, of course, didn't mind. He chuckled when I rolled my eyes at her texts. She just cares about you, he said. She's your best friend. It's cute. And maybe he was right. Maybe it was cute. But a small, uneasy voice inside me whispered, or maybe it's something else. The first doubts. When we came back home, married life was exciting and new. We bought furniture together, cooked dinners, argued over Netflix shows, and learned each other's habits in ways you can only learn once you live together. It was good. Really good. But Emma was always there. She came over more often than before. Sometimes uninvited, sometimes with excuses like, I was in the neighborhood. Or, I thought I'd bring you wine. At first, I loved it. My two favorite people getting along so well. What more could I want? But slowly, things shifted. One night, I came home from work and found Emma already there, sitting on the couch, laughing at something Daniel said. They looked so comfortable. Too comfortable. I shook it off. It was fine, they were friends too. But the more it happened, the more unsettled I felt. The dinner incident. The first real red flag came at a dinner with friends. We were at a nice restaurant, all dressed up, drinks flowing. At some point, one of Daniel's friends joked about how marriage changes people. Daniel smirked and said, Don't worry, I'm still the same guy, just married now. Emma leaned in, put her hand on his arm, and said with a laugh, Don't, let her fool you. You haven't changed at all. Everyone laughed. It seemed harmless. But my stomach dropped. Why did it feel like there was an inside joke between them? Why did her hand linger a second too long on his arm? I smiled through. It pretended I didn't notice. But inside, I felt something crack. Whispers of paranoia. After that night, I started noticing everything. The way Emma always found reasons to text Daniel. The way she'd compliment him. You look sharp today. Or, you're so good at fixing things. The way Daniel sometimes lit up when she walked into a room. I hated myself for it. I hated the jealousy that crept in, the suspicion that maybe I was losing both my husband and my best friend at the same time. But then I'd scold myself. No, I'd whisper late at night. They wouldn't. Not Emma, not Daniel. You're just tired. You're just paranoid. And so I ignored the whispers. I shoved them down deep, because facing them meant facing a nightmare I wasn't ready to admit could be real. The growing distance marriage wasn't supposed to feel lonely so soon, but it did. Daniel worked late more often. He claimed it was projects piling up, and maybe it was. But when he came home, sometimes he was distracted, smiling at his phone, texting someone late into the night. When I asked, he'd say it was work stuff. I wanted to believe him. I needed to believe him. And Emma? She seemed to know things before I did. When Daniel got promoted at work, she congratulated him before I even heard the news. When he changed his haircut, she noticed it before I did. It was subtle. Always subtle. But enough to make me wonder, was I missing something, or was something being kept from me? The breaking point approaches one night after a particularly long day at work. I came home exhausted. I walked through the door, set my purse down, and froze. There was laughter coming from the living room. Emma's laughter. Daniel's voice. I turned the corner and saw them sitting on the couch. Close. Too close. Sharing a blanket. When they saw me, they jumped apart like teenagers caught doing something wrong. Emma's face went bright red. Daniel quickly said, "Oh, we were just watching a movie. You looked tired, so I didn't want to bother you." I nodded slowly, forced a smile. But my heart pounded in my chest. That night, as I lay in bed next to Daniel, staring at the ceiling, I realized something. The whispers weren't paranoia anymore. They were warnings, and I was about to find out just how deep the betrayal went. There are moments in life that split everything into before and after. Before the betrayal, my life was full of hope, love, and trust. After, everything felt like glass shattered on the floor, and it all started with one stupid accident. The iPad incident. It was a Saturday morning, the kind where I usually made coffee and scrolled on my phone while Daniel caught up on emails. But that day, my phone had died overnight. Out of habit, I grabbed Daniel's iPad from the coffee table to check the news. The screen lit up instantly, and with it, his messages. At first, it was harmless. A couple of work emails, a notification from his gym. But then, one thread caught my eye. A name at the top that made my heart stop. Emma. My thumb hovered over the screen. My rational side screamed at me, Don't invade his privacy. Don't be the paranoid wife." But my gut, the same gut that had been whispering for months, forced my finger down. And that's when my world fell apart. The messages. The conversation wasn't just friendly. It wasn't even flirty. It was intimate. Too intimate. Emma. "Last night was amazing. I can't stop thinking about it." Daniel. "Same here. I don't know how much longer we can keep this a secret." Emma. "She trusts us too much. That's what makes it exciting." My blood ran cold. My hands shook so badly I nearly dropped the iPad. Line after line blurred together, but every word was a knife. Plans to meet, inside jokes, references to stolen kisses, and the one message that made me feel like my chest had caved in. Daniel. "Sometimes I think I chose the wrong sister." I couldn't breathe. My vision swam. My heart pounded so hard I thought it might burst. This wasn't just cheating. This was betrayal of the deepest kind. Not only had my husband broken his vows, but my best friend, my sister in everything but blood, was the one he broke them with. The breakdown. I don't know how long I sat there, staring at the screen. Minutes. Hours. Time had no meaning. When Daniel came into the room, I jumped like I'd been caught stealing. I slammed the iPad shut so fast it echoed in the quiet morning. He raised an eyebrow. "You okay?" I forced a smile. My voice cracked. "Yeah, just tired." He kissed my forehead, completely unaware that I now knew everything, that I was crumbling inside. As soon as he left the room, I broke. I cried until my throat was raw. My body shook with sobs I couldn't control. My mind replayed every memory, every laugh Emma and I shared, every promise Daniel made to me, now tainted, poisoned, destroyed. The pain was unbearable. But underneath the pain, something darker began to grow. The rage at first, I wanted to confront them immediately, to scream, to throw the iPad at Daniel's face and call Emma to curse her out. But then another thought crept in. If I exploded now, I'd lose control. They'd spin it. They'd lie. They'd make me look crazy. No, they didn't deserve an out. If they thought they could betray me in secret, I would make sure the whole world knew the truth. And that was the moment everything changed. I wiped my tears, straightened my back, and for the first time since discovering their betrayal, I smiled. They thought they were clever. They thought they were untouchable. But I was about to show them just how dangerous a betrayed woman can be. Gathering. Proof for weeks I played the role of the clueless wife. I smiled at Daniel. I laughed with Emma. I let them think I was blind, but behind the scenes I collected everything. Screenshots of messages, photos of Emma's car parked near Daniel's office late at night, a voice recording of them whispering in my kitchen when they thought I was asleep. Every detail, every shred of evidence I stored carefully. The more I gathered, the angrier I became. But also, the calmer. Because with each piece of proof, my plan grew stronger. They weren't just going to lose me. They were going to lose everything. The confrontation. That almost happened. One night, Emma came over with wine, like she often did. We sat on the couch, chatting like old times, except I couldn't stop staring at her. Her smile, her laugh, the way she spoke about Daniel like he was hers. I wanted to grab her and scream, "How could you? How could you do this to me after everything?" Instead, I sipped my wine and asked casually, "So, seeing anyone lately?" She hesitated, just for a second, before shaking her head. "No. You know me. Still single, still unlucky." The lie burned my ears. I smiled sweetly, hiding the storm inside me. "Well, whoever he is, I'm sure he'll regret losing you one day." Her eyes flickered with something, guilt, maybe, or arrogance. Either way, I knew one thing for certain. The mask wouldn't stay on her face much longer. The calm before. The storm lying next to Daniel at night was the hardest part. He'd kiss me goodnight, whisper, "I love you," and I'd whisper it back, bile rising in my throat. Every touch felt fake, every word a betrayal, but I held it in. Because patience was my weapon now. The storm was coming. And when it did, Emma and Daniel wouldn't just face me, they'd face everyone. There's a saying, revenge is a dish best served cold. And for the first time in my life, I truly understood it. Because after discovering Daniel and Emma's betrayal, I didn't scream. I didn't cry in front of them. I didn't even confront them. I went silent. And silence is far more dangerous than rage. The mask. I wore to Daniel, I was still the loving wife. To Emma, I was still the loyal best friend. I smiled. I laughed. I played my part. But inside, I was calculating. Every dinner I cooked for Daniel, every girls' night with Emma, it was all part of the performance. The more normal I acted, the less they suspected. And the less they suspected, the bolder they became. The sloppy mistakes, when cheaters think they're winning, they get careless. Daniel started working late, more often. Emma started dropping by unannounced at strange hours. One afternoon, I came home early and saw Daniel's car parked 2 blocks away near a coffee shop. Through the window, I spotted him sitting across from Emma. Their heads close, hands brushing. They didn't see me, but I saw them, and I smiled. Because every mistake they made was fuel for my fire. Confiding in no one, most people, when betrayed, run to friends or family for comfort. I didn't. Not because I didn't have people who cared, but because I didn't want anyone to stop me. I knew if I told my mother, she'd beg me to leave Daniel quietly. If I told another friend, they'd say, "Forget Emma, she's not worth it." But I didn't want to forget. I wanted justice, so I bottled it all up. I carried the weight alone. And in the quiet of my solitude, I designed my revenge. The seeds of revenge. Step 1. Gather more proof. I installed a small camera in the living room, hidden in a picture frame, another in the kitchen. I synced Daniel's iPad to my own phone so his messages mirrored onto mine. Every kiss, every touch, every whisper, they were mine now. Step 2. Build the story. I wasn't going to confront them with just screenshots. No, I wanted a story so airtight, so undeniable that neither of them could wriggle out. Step 3. Choose the battlefield. Would it be at a family dinner? A holiday gathering? Their smug little faces deserved to be exposed in front of everyone who mattered. But the key to revenge isn't just exposing betrayal. It's making sure the betrayers lose everything in the process. Playing the role. The more evidence I collected, the more dangerous my smile became. One night, Daniel came home late, smelling faintly of Emma's perfume. My heart screamed, but my lips curved into a sweet smile. Tough day at work? I asked. He sighed, kissed my forehead, and said, "Yeah, meetings went late." I nodded, pretending to believe him, pretending not to notice the guilt in his eyes. Later that week, Emma invited me out for drinks. She giggled, leaned in, and said, "You're so lucky, you know. Daniel's such a great guy." I raised my glass, forcing back the bile in my throat, and replied, "Yeah, I really am." If she noticed the venom in my smile, she ignored it. The cracks in my sanity, holding it all in, wasn't easy. There were nights I'd lie awake, staring at the ceiling, fists clenched so hard my nails dug into my palms. Nights when I wanted to scream into the darkness to break every dish in the house. But I didn't. Because every ounce of rage was fuel. Every tear I swallowed was power, and the longer I waited, the sweeter the storm would be. The perfect opportunity, then came the invitation that changed everything. Daniel's parents were hosting their 35th wedding anniversary. A big celebration. Extended family, close friends, including Emma. The moment I heard about it, I knew. This was the battlefield. This was where the storm would break. Preparing the arsenal for the next 2 weeks, I prepared. I printed out screenshots of every incriminating message. I clipped together video recordings from the cameras, intimate whispers, touches, stolen moments. I organized it all into a neat little package. And then I crafted my masterpiece, a slideshow presentation. Yes, a full-blown slideshow. Photos, messages, recordings, all timed perfectly, because if they wanted drama, I was going to give them a performance worthy of a standing ovation. The calm before. The night before the anniversary, I stood in front of the mirror and studied myself. To anyone else, I looked calm, beautiful even. But inside, I was a storm held together by sheer willpower. I whispered to my reflection, "Tomorrow you stop being the victim. Tomorrow you take back control." And for the first time in months, I slept soundly. Closing of Part 4, The Betrayal. Had broken me, yes, but it had also rebuilt me. I wasn't the naive wife anymore. I wasn't the blind best friend. I was the storm. And Daniel and Emma, they were about to drown in it. The anniversary night. The evening of Daniel's parents' 35th wedding anniversary was glittering with fairy lights and filled with laughter. Everyone was dressed to impress. The long banquet hall smelled of roses and expensive champagne. To the guests, it was a celebration of love, loyalty, and lasting commitment. To me, it was the perfect stage for destruction. I wore a red dress. Fitting, I thought, since I was carrying the kind of fire that burns everything it touches. Daniel kissed my cheek before we walked in. Emma arrived moments later, her hair perfectly curled, her smile smug as ever. Neither of them had the faintest clue that tonight would be the end of their little secret world. Playing the part all through dinner, I smiled, laughed, and clinked glasses. Daniel whispered in my ear, "You look beautiful tonight." I wanted to spit in his face. Instead, I leaned in and said sweetly, "Thank you, love." Emma was seated just across the table, And every time our eyes met, she gave me a look. Half pity, half arrogance. That look said, "I have something you don't," and I thought, not for long. The speech. When dessert was being served, Daniel's father stood up to thank everyone for coming. He gave a heartfelt speech about marriage being built on trust, loyalty, and friendship. I almost laughed out loud at the irony, and then just as the applause died down, I stood up too. "Excuse me, everyone," I said, my voice clear, steady, carrying across the room. "I'd like to say a few words as well." Dozens of eyes turned toward me. Daniel looked startled. Emma froze, her fork halfway to her mouth. I smiled. This was it, the reveal. "I've always admired this family," I began, gesturing toward Daniel's parents. 35 years of love and loyalty. A true example for all of us, Daniel beamed at me. Emma forced a polite smile. "But unfortunately," I continued, my voice sharpening, "not everyone in this family believes in loyalty." The room fell silent. You could have heard a pin drop. I reached into my bag and pulled out a small remote. With one click, the big projector screen lit up behind me, and slide one appeared. A screenshot of Daniel and Emma's messages. Gasps rippled across the room. Daniel's face went white. Emma choked on air. I clicked again. Another message. "Last night was amazing." Click. A photo of Emma's car parked outside our house at midnight. Click. A video recording of them whispering in my living room. The room erupted. People whispered, shouted, pointed. Daniel stammered, "Wait, this isn't what it looks like?" I raised a hand. "Oh, it's exactly what it looks like." Their reactions, Emma stood up, her face red, her voice trembling. "You don't understand," I cut her off, my tone like ice. "No, Emma, I understand perfectly. You were supposed to be my best friend, my sister. But instead, you were sneaking around with my husband." Her lips trembled. Tears pooled in her eyes. But I didn't soften. I turned to Daniel. "And you? You vowed to love me, to be faithful. But apparently those vows meant nothing," he stuttered, tried to reach for me. "Please, let's talk about this privately." "Privately?" I laughed bitterly. "You betrayed me privately. Now you'll be exposed publicly." The crowd turns. The guests weren't on their side. Daniel's parents were mortified. His mother's hand covered her mouth. His father's face burned with shame. Emma's own cousins glared at her like she was dirt. People whispered things like, "How could she do that to her best friend?" And with her husband? Disgusting. Emma's cheeks burned. Daniel's hands shook. They looked like children, caught stealing candy. But the candy was my life, my trust, my dignity. My final words. I let the chaos swirl for a moment before I delivered the final blow. "You both thought you could take advantage of my trust. You thought I'd never find out. But the thing about betrayal," I paused, letting the silence build, "is that it always comes back to destroy you." I dropped the remote, grabbed my glass of champagne, and raised it high. To 35 years of loyalty, and to cutting out the snakes who don't deserve it. The room erupted in applause, not for Daniel or Emma, but for me. The fallout Daniel tried to follow me as I walked out, but his father grabbed his arm, hissing something in his ear. Emma stood frozen, tears streaming down her face as her own family turned away from her. By the time I reached my car, my phone was buzzing nonstop. Messages of support, people telling me I was brave, that I deserved better, and they were right. For the first time since discovering the betrayal, I didn't feel broken. I felt powerful. The night I exposed Daniel and Emma was the night I buried my old self. I buried the naive wife who trusted blindly. I buried the loyal friend who believed in sisterhood. And in her place, I was reborn. Stronger, sharper, untouchable. But revenge isn't just about the moment of exposure. It's about what comes after. The days after the storm. When I woke up the next morning, my phone was overflowing with messages. Some were from family. "We're so proud of you for standing up for yourself. You didn't deserve any of this." Some were from mutual friends. "Emma is finished. No one wants to even look at her right now." Daniel's parents are furious. "I don't think they'll forgive him." And then there were the messages from Daniel, dozens of them. Please, let's talk. I made a mistake. We can fix this. You don't understand. It didn't mean anything. I ignored every single one. For once, I was in control. Emma's fall from grace. Emma had always been the golden girl. In our circle, the one people admired, the one everyone trusted. But after that night, her reputation collapsed overnight. Her job at a local PR firm suddenly didn't want the drama of the cheating best friend tied to their brand. She quietly stopped showing up at the office. Mutual friends blocked her. Her own cousins stopped, inviting her to family events. Even her own mother told her to find a new city and start over. The woman who had once smiled smugly across the table at me was now hiding behind closed blinds, her social media deleted, her phone silent, and I didn't feel pity. Because she made her choice. Daniel's desperation. Daniel didn't take the exposure well either. His father barely spoke to him. His mother cried every time she looked at him. His brothers told him flat out that he'd destroyed everything. At work, word had spread too. Because secrets don't stay secret when 30 people hear them at once. His colleagues looked at him differently, whispered behind his back. And at night, he tried to call me. Sometimes begging, sometimes angry, sometimes sobbing. But the man who once held all the power in our marriage now looked like a child who'd lost his favorite toy. And the cruel truth? He had lost something far greater than a toy. He had lost me. Choosing my path divorce wasn't an easy decision. Part of me wanted to walk away quietly, sign the papers, never look back. But another part of me, the part that had been humiliated, betrayed, broken, wanted him to suffer through every detail. So I didn't rush. I took my time. I hired the best lawyer I could find, collected every shred of evidence, made sure the divorce settlement left me with financial stability and him with nothing but guilt. Emma had already ruined her own life. Now it was Daniel's turn. Healing in silence revenge gave me power, yes. But healing, that was mine alone. To do. There were nights I cried, not for them, but for myself. For the years I'd wasted, for the blind trust I'd given, for the version of me that believed friendship and marriage were unbreakable bonds. But slowly, I realized something. They hadn't broken me. They had freed me. I no longer carried dead weight disguised as love. I no longer clung to a friendship that had been poison for years. I was lighter, stronger, alive. The final encounter weeks later, Daniel begged me to meet him one last time. Out. Of curiosity, I agreed. We sat in a cafe, the same one where I'd once seen him with Emma. He looked older, tired, defeated. I still love you, he whispered. I stirred my coffee calmly. You love yourself. That's all you've ever loved. He tried to hold my hand. I pulled it away. It's over, Daniel. You made your choice. Now live with it. For once, he had no words. I stood up, walked out, and didn't look back. Reflection looking back now, I realize revenge wasn't about destroying them. It was about reclaiming me. Daniel and Emma thought they had power over me. They thought I'd crumble, that I'd beg, that I'd accept scraps of loyalty. But instead, I burned the stage they were performing on. And when the ashes settled, I was the only one still standing. Closing line. So yes, I lost a husband. I lost a best friend. But what I gained was priceless. My freedom, my dignity, and the sweetest revenge of all, watching them destroy themselves with the choices they made.